Welcome to the Couch Money Gaming Discord channel servers podcast called Couch Cash Repeat. I am your host, as always, Ryan Moore, or also known on the Discord server as the Madman 007. So, we have a fun podcast today. I'm going to go through the few games that I've been playing. I actually have not been playing anything for the last week since I've been in California all week. But before then, I really tried hard to get into a ton of different games, and I actually completed quite a few. So I'll kind of run that down. But basically, this is just going to be a normal podcast where I go over the games that I've been playing and then covering the main topic, which I call couch chat or couch talk. I haven't really decided on the name yet. And then talk about the game of the month for March. So without further ado, let's dive right into what I've been playing, which has been a lot. The first game that I've been playing was Atomic Heart, which could basically best be described as BioShock in Russia. It is a alternate reality history of 1950s in Russia, where Russia is the primary, world leader in robotics and technology and kind of creating a utopian society. Unfortunately, everything goes wrong, just like BioShock. So what this basically does is take you as the protagonist, and basically robots go haywire and just kind of mess everything up. And basically when you're dealing with that, it becomes a little bit more uh, uninteresting, for the mere fact that when I was playing this game, all I could think about during the first few hours was, boy, this is really BioShock in Russia. Like, to a detriment, I think. It does a lot of cool things, but really it's so jam-packed with, hey, this is BioShock in Russia, that it just kind of really deterred me from playing certain parts of the game or enjoying certain parts of the game more than anything else. It's a really fun game. I really enjoyed my time with it so far. It's pretty big, which I think it doesn't need to be this long. I'm probably, and unfortunately, because I am playing it on Game Pass on PC, there is no way for me to check the hours relatively quickly. I can link up Xbox Live to what is it, GOG Galaxy 2.0, and that will give me a rough estimate on the amount of hours that I played. But GOG Galaxy has a lot of issues when you link certain accounts together. Like the Ubisoft account linking is straight up broken. So is PlayStation's. So I believe Xbox does work, but I also have Steam connected, and I have so many stinking games in Steam that the import process, which it basically imports every single time, it takes 20, 30 minutes to import my profile of games that I played into GOG, and then I also can link my Xbox account, and it does. But again, like I said, sometimes it breaks while it takes too long. So it's one of those things where I can just kind of guesstimate a little bit. But honestly, I think I'm about 15 plus hours into the game. I spent several weekends playing it, pretty much like for a good chunk of time during the weekends. And I have no idea how close I am, but I feel like I am nowhere near as close as I need to be to finishing this game. So let's kind of unpack what really Atomic Heart actually is. It's a first person shooter. Like I said, it's basically BioShock in Russia. And it allows you to have this semi open world experience at certain points. But the game really doesn't feel like it allows me to play in the open world as much as I want to. And this is one of my biggest issues with the game so far. Now, the very beginning intro takes about 20 minutes, and it is pretty much on rails. Not on rails to where you have no control, but like it's a very linear path to where you can't stray too far, but you can spend 5 minutes in an area just listening to character dialogue to kind of soak up the world. And I kind of really like that. But at the same time, I had an issue with it when I first started playing. The reason why I was really excited for this game, I don't want to say hyped because I didn't really pay attention to any of the marketing. I remember the first original trailer release, E3 2019, I think, like maybe before the pandemic started. I can't remember exactly when. But basically, I remember when the trailer showed up, no one knew what this game was going to be, but it looked really interesting. It had robots attacking you in first person, and the robot's face kind of it screamed in your face as it was trying to like strangle you, and then its face opened up, kind of like the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, Total Recall, or something like that, or maybe Men in Black, where the robot's face just kind of like opens up to expose its innards. And I thought that was really, really cool. So it grabbed my attention right away. So when this game started actually doing its media cycle, hyping up the release over the last several months, I didn't want to pay attention to it because I knew I was already going to play it. And then it got announced that it was going to be on Game Pass, so that sealed the deal. I was excited enough to play it, but I wasn't excited enough to go seek out more information on it. I want to experience games as blank as possible. The media blackout type of stuff. Like, I know I'm going to play it. I don't need to see trailers. I don't need to see dev diaries. I don't need to see any of that stuff because there's no reason for me to see more than what they have. Um, it's just one of those things where I want to be surprised by the amount of the game, exploring the game as I go through it. So I was really excited about it. And I never do this. I never preload games. I have a fast enough internet connection as it is, even if games are 20, 30, 40, 80 gigs nowadays. The game was actually pretty big. I think it was about 50 something gigs. But for whatever reason, I read an article online the night before saying, hey, you can preload Atomic Heart. And I said, well, shoot. I know I'm going to play it tomorrow night when it launches. I might as well. So I downloaded it and I preloaded it on my gaming PC the night before the game launched. And with game launches now, you can never tell when the game's actually going to be available to play. They can say, oh, it starts, the game releases on October 17th or whatever, March 17th, or not March. Yeah, it was like March 6th, let's say. Oh, it releases on March 6th. But you don't know if that's 9 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock at night, March 6th. And now that I live in a new time zone, as of the last couple of years, I knew Steam releases. I knew I could play at 9 p.m. Pacific time because that's the time frame I was in, the time zone. But now with being in Central Time and, all that fun stuff, it's a little bit less like automatic for me. I actually got to go look that stuff up every once in a while if I really care. So I did my whole work day. I came up and I started, getting excited to load up Atomic Heart later that evening, and it didn't load up. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of a bummer. And I waited and I waited and I waited till around midnight. Midnight came. It seems like everyone was unlocking it and starting to play it. I saw a couple streamers who, did the time change thing and all that fun stuff. But I started watching people start to play this game and I was like, okay, cool. It's unlocked. I can go play it. So I clicked play and it's midnight and I have to be up at, I think I had to be up at 6 a.m. So I was like, I will get like 30 minutes into the game. I'll play just a little bit. I want to see what the game feels like, if it controls really well, because game controls are a big thing. I remember when Rage 2 came out. I never played the original Rage. I was not a fan of it because I never played it. When Rage 2 came out, it was right at the time where everyone was doing the hyper colors, uh, neon pink, neon green, neon blue for everything, like this weird colorful dust. You had Far Cry New Dawn, which was Far Cry 5's, expanded DLC into its sub game. And then you had Rage 2, and there was another one that was really popular that did the same aesthetic choice. So I don't remember where I was going with this. Oh, game controls. Sorry. So the game controls itself were basically like very floaty when I did play it. It was on Game Pass. I downloaded it. I played it for like 15 minutes and just trashed it. I deleted it. I was like, dude, I don't like the way this game feels. It feels way too floaty, way too, speedy. It felt like that Doom 2016, Doom Immortal speed, where you are just flying. You don't feel like you have any gravity activated on your character. And I just didn't like it. So I wanted to see at least what the game felt like. So I loaded it up. I clicked play and it said, "Oh, there's an update." And I went, "Oh, you got to be kidding me." But I preloaded it. How is there an update? I preloaded it less than 24 hours ago. But for whatever reason, there was this thing where the update, even though it was like, I don't know what actually happened. I think it actually was like, instead of the update, it just had to re-download the game again with the update included. So I had to wait for, a 50 gig update to basically re-download the entire game before I started playing it. So what was the purpose of preloading? There was no purpose. And this was apparently a pretty rare case, and like there were articles the next day saying, what was the point of preloading Atomic Heart if we just had to re-download the game again? So I was pretty mad about that because it was the one time that I actually did preload. And it didn't do a darn thing. So I was really bummed out about that. But anyways, doesn't really matter too much. I loaded up the game once it got downloaded, and I was like, dude, looking at my watch, I'm like, dude, this is like almost 1 o'clock in the morning. I gotta be up in like 5 hours. I played maybe 10 minutes of the game. I loaded it up. I got into the opening scene, and I was just like, dude, this is just, there's 10 minutes of talking. And, like in BioShock, spoilers for 2007's BioShock, but at the very beginning of the game, you crash land, you go to the lighthouse, and you get into the um, bathysphere, and then you start going through the introduction to Rapture, which takes a few minutes. But it was so breathtaking. It was so interesting that it was like, oh man. But you had control of the character right away, at least to, swim through the airplane wreckage, explore the little tiny lighthouse, and then go into the bathysphere and kind of look around. Atomic Heart, you're in a kayak, basically, going down this river, and you're just looking at, the world building that they've created, which is cool, but immediately you have no control. And this is something that I have a big issue with video games nowadays is the introductions to the games just take too long. I don't need an intro cutscene. I don't need an introduction, dark ride, like at Disneyland where I just sit and look. Like, let me kind of explore first and build the world around me as I am playing the game. That's what I love about video games. When you immediately take away my control over the character and the world that is in front of me, I want to just run out and, start exploring and playing around. I want to jump and see how the jump feels. I want to turn around. I want to run. I want to dash. I want to roll. I want to do everything that the game allows me to do with its normal control scheme immediately to see how the game feels. Because again, how that game controls and feels is a very big deal to me. like with Rage 2. So, all that being said, I played about 10 minutes of it. I got out of the kayak in Atomic Heart. I talked to a few people. I interacted with a few things. I listened to a few dialogue scenes. And then I just pieced out because I had to go to bed. I had to get up super early in the morning. I had to teach all day long. So I was just like, I'll come back to this tomorrow night. And so the next night, when wanted to start playing, I kind of got sidetracked with a lot of other things. We were building a coop for our chickens. I had to, go to dinner. I had to cook dinner, and then, once I was done with that, I was just tired, and I didn't want to really deal with, video games. Because yes, video games are a hobby for me. Yes, video games are mostly relaxing, but they do take energy. And when I talk and teach a group of people for 8 hours straight, and then I have to cook and clean, spend time with my family, do all the normal other stuff, I'm just drained and exhausted. So I didn't really feel like playing the next night. And then the next night, the same thing happened, the same thing for a few nights. And I was also reading some first impressions of it, just very basic first impressions. And I was just like, you know what? I don't know if I really want to play this right now. So it took about a week for me, maybe a few days. I think it came out on like a Tuesday night or something like that. And so by Saturday afternoon, I was in the mood for playing it, kind of. I was like, you know what? I'll just start it. So I started it and I got through that introduction because it didn't save it. So I had to kind of just sit through the whole thing again. And then I got through the introductory, which is about, like I said, 20 minutes long. And it is really interesting. But man, I just wanted to play the game. And it just felt like you're not letting me play and feel what the game feels like. You're not letting me explore. You're not taking the time to let me, as the player, play the game. It might as well have just been a cutscene. That whole introductory late title card sequence should be a cutscene because there is zero reason for me to explore. And that should have been pre-material. Maybe that's an idea for how we can, um, brand video games a little bit better, do some creative marketing, put the intro, release it in chunks, 5-minute chunks or something like that, as marketing material as opposed to the game itself, because the game A is already too long. The intro freaking just takes too long and I have no control basically anyway. So what's the point? It's just one of those things that, hey, maybe that's an idea. So when I sat down that Saturday afternoon and started playing it, I actually started to dig it. I was like, okay, I get what this is going for. It's straight up BioShock. You have basically plasmids, which are, special powers that you have thanks to a glove. So you have this glove that talks to you. And this is the biggest issue that I have with Atomic Heart. It's not just the dialogue, because the dialogue is interesting for the most part. The dialogue intrigues me enough for me to keep playing. The dialogue is interesting in a way where it wants me to, I want to engage with it. And I want to see what the characters have to say about all these things that are going on around me in the world, except for the character you play as. The character you play as is so unbelievably terrible. It is possibly one of the worst written characters in all of video games. It is baffling how stilted, not just the voice performance is, because I think the voice actor does a good job. I just think that they didn't get the right inflection points for what's happening around them. When a character, like a robot, is grabbing the main character, my character that I'm playing as, and screaming at his face, he's carrying on like, oh man, this is terrible. Oh no, please don't do that. Instead of like huffing and screaming and all this stuff, it's a game that feels unpolished in a way where they needed, like, again, a month or two to just kind of clean up some stuff. If you have 3 takes of, "Oh, no," where it's like, "Oh, no. Oh, no. Ah!" Like those things where you are having different inflections on the circumstances surrounding your character, they need to match what's happening on screen. And that does not happen with this game at all. Most of the dialogue is stilted. And when I say stilted, I mean it makes no sense. Yeah, theoretically, the words, like if you read it in a script format, sure, I guess it could make sense. But when it's acted out, it just does not flow. And it's really weird. The whole game is weird. And I'm going to go deep into this subject matter. Again, I haven't finished the game. I don't know what plot twists are happening, but I could pretty much see them a mile away just by playing the game as I've gone through it. So that's one of the biggest issues is not just the voice actor's lines don't match up to what's happening on screen, but the way he is written is a 2023, a modern day Zoomer dialogue in 1950s Russia. I don't care about the whole English translation thing. Like, that doesn't bother me at all because English is my main language. So I would like to hear English versions of dialogue versus, throwing it in Russian and having subtitles and reading everything as I'm trying to play, because that's just not going to work for me. Sorry, this is an action game. I need to be paying attention to what's on screen, not the subtitles that are happening. So I will always take a English dub or an English voice acted version over English subtitles and then the main, character dialogue, because it's the same thing like in Yakuza. Yakuza is a little bit different. That's not maybe the best example, but the Japanese voice acting doesn't do anything for me other than the fact that I know that's the way it was created. However, this is why I don't like anime all that much, is with anime, I have no idea the different voice actors. They all sound the exact same. You have one Japanese voice actor and one girl Japanese voice actor, and that's it. So one male, one female Japanese voice actor for every Japanese anime of all time. You could tell me there is 700 different animes. Every single female version sounds the same to me. It's just I cannot tell the differences between those. So I don't like I don't like the original voice acting audio. I want the main one. Even though this is a Russian game, hearing the Russian voice acting is not going to do anything for me because I have no idea what they're saying. And I can't tell the different inflection points. I can't tell the range as much. So that's just me. That's how I am. So when I played this game, I was really excited about, going through this, but the main character is just such an idiot. He is so awful. He is so off-putting because of the way that he's written. Like I said, it's Zoomer dialogue for the main character versus everyone else. So here's an example. When the glove that you communicate to the entire game, and there is, I do agree that it's a little bit overly obnoxious by how much dialogue there is, how much these characters need to talk to each other throughout the entire game. But at the same time, I do enjoy it because it does build the world up. It creates, these character dialogues while I'm exploring stuff that gives me a little bit better understanding of how the world is created. So when I, the main character, am conversing with my glove that talks to me through AI, the dialogue that I am spouting is basically all F words. Like, it sounds like a 13-year-old trying to impress his friends. It is unbelievable how many F-bombs this character drops at the drop of a hat. Like, he could stumble over a rock. He could kick a can or kick a curb on accident, stub his toe, and he will drop 17 F-bombs in a row. Like, that's just poor writing. I'm sorry. I don't find any enjoyableness out of F-bomb dropping. Like, why? Why is that necessary? Your character cannot come up with better dialogue, better vocabulary than just filler F words throughout the entire time. And then they try to give him a catchphrase for whatever reason that is never explained, as far as I know, as far as I've been playing. He says the phrase crispy critters. Like, instead of Steve Urkel's, did I do that? Crispy critters. Like, what does that mean, first of all? And why is that being applied here? And it's constant. Whenever something like, whenever he has an epiphany, whenever, he comes across something that he just realized, it's crispy critters. Oh, I can't believe that character did that. Crispy critters. And it is such a joke. It is so laughably bad that it's like, what? I'm actually laughing right now because I just can't believe how weird it is that that is like said by this main character and only the main character throughout the entire game. And I've never heard anyone ever say that phrase before in my entire life. It's just weird. It's like, good grief. Did I do that? What you talking about, Willis? Like, it's just a catchphrase and it just makes no sense in the context of the game. And the reason why, it's because the game itself is so serious. It's terrifying. It's BioShock levels of atmosphere dripping with these crazy robots in these factories and these, other places. I won't give away too much. Again, I don't want to spoil anything for those who want to play it. I think it's going to be one of those top games of the year, or at least in the conversation of games of the year this year for sure. So I don't want to spoil too much yet, but there is stuff where it's literally almost taken out of BioShock. You're just like, you could have thought of something a little bit different, but whatever. I do enjoy the atmosphere. I do enjoy the level design. I love the color scheme of it all. But man, City in the Clouds, like this is intro, like again, first 10 minutes, first 20 minutes of the game. Like it's literally a utopian society in the clouds, a floating city. And it's like, wow, that's BioShock Infinite to a T. You have this grand master designer, who definitely has something going on behind the scenes that you don't pick up right away, but you go, there's something going on with this guy. It's just one of those things where I'm like, man, it's a little bit too on the nose. You know what I mean? But the main character, the swearing, the crispy critters catchphrase, talking too much, those are the not good things. And then there's one other thing that I do want to point out for those who are interested in playing this, because I do think it's a pretty good game that most people would like to play. When you play this game, it feels very linear for the first couple of hours. And that's where I was like, oh man, going through the menu system and seeing all this stuff that I can unlock, and I have to gain and search for parts to create these new upgrades for all these weapons and stuff like that. I'm like, man, this seems overwhelming. And that's kind of crazy for a very linear game for the first few hours, but then it unlocks, it opens up a little bit. But here's the biggest issue. Not just the main character and his dialogue, but the open world aspect does not allow you to actually explore. And the reason why is because the world that they create, basically the robots overrun the open worlds in the buildings and stuff like that. But out in the open world, you have these robots where you can kind of sneak up and destroy and all that stuff, take out security cameras. And this, if you get caught by the security cameras, more robots will be alarmed and come to get you. But if you destroy any of those, they get automatically repaired. And there is a way to disable that, but it's only for a select amount of time, and they will get repaired all the time, no matter what. So you basically just have to run and gun it. You basically just have to sprint past everything. And I don't like that. I much would have rather preferred the game allow me to take out, systematically take out, by stealth approaches or action approaches or whatever, like hold up in a building and just have everyone come to me, have a 20-minute firefight and have, open up the door at the very end and have just like a mountain of destroyed machinery at my feet, and then go about, for the next 20 minutes, exploring the location that I just cleared out in maybe like in Far Cry. But they don't let you do that. You blow up a character that is chasing you, and maybe a couple other things chase you, and you have this like 30-second firefight and you kill everything. But then these flying robots from, I can't remember, they call it a hive or a hawk or something like that. But basically, these little nests around the locations will send out repair drones. And those repair drones just keep coming. And it is just like defeating. I felt so defeated after a couple firefights where I was like, dude, I just spent 20 minutes taking out all these things, and huddling and having those cool firefight moments, to realize, oh, they all got repaired. And then I can try and take out all those, repair drones. But again, those will get repaired as well. And it's just like, okay, I'm done with this. And so I just run. And there was this one part where there's this very long, extended get from point A to point B. Point A, you come out from this, underground facility that you've been in for the last several hours. And then you get up top, and then you got to get to point B. And point B is, a couple kilometers away or miles away. And so you got to hoof it on foot across this massive landscape where there is patrol bots throughout the entire thing, and I could not find any health. And I was just, my heart was beating out of my chest because the checkpoint system, the save system, is pretty scarce in the game and not very good either. So I was just like, oh my gosh, this sucks. And so at one point, I just went to the very side invisible wall, booked it all the way across the map as far as I could away from the sight or the line of sight of all the enemies, and got to the next save location. And that would have probably taken me an hour to do. But it took me 5-10 minutes maybe, because I just booked it across the whole thing without, getting into any fights, because I didn't have the health. I didn't have the ammo. I didn't feel safe in any location at all to where I could hold my ground. So there's definitely some issues with the game, but it's not a bad playing game. I'm having fun with it. And I think part of the fun is the weapons. The weapons are very BioShock 1, where they're all cobbled together from certain things and you can upgrade them as long as you have the certain parts to upgrade. Unfortunately, a lot of the parts are located in subterranean underground bunker areas that you have to clear out, which is kind of cool. But again, that goes against that whole like open world, like trying to find the thing and then going underneath and clearing out, a compound of some sort. It doesn't work the way I think it's intended to. It doesn't feel like, oh yeah, let me just go over there. It's because there's so many robots patrolling and they just constantly knock you down. They constantly eat away at your health, to where if you want to get from point A to point B, if I go, okay, in the menu, I can see that to upgrade my axe to an axe with a saw blade on it, which will do 2 times as much damage, I got to get from this location to point B. But in between that point A to point B, I'm probably going to die 3 or 4 times in the midst of just getting to that area so that I can go down an elevator and get to the, bunker that I need to clear out to find the blueprint to get the unlockable. And it's like a game that is wanting you to spend 80 hours in it. And it's like, dude, this is a 15-hour game at max. But there's so much extra stuff. And the point A to point B location stuff is just, it's too much. It's draining. And so when I started playing it on the weekend, I would play it for like an hour chunk at a time. And I feel like I barely made any progress. And then, later at night after my wife went to bed, I would play it some more. And I play it for 3 hours at a time or 6 hours at a time, like late into the early morning, evening. And I felt like I barely made a dent in the game. And like I said, I've played 15, 20 hours of this game so far, and I feel like I'm maybe a third of the way through the game, but I haven't explored half or even a 25% of the open world because I just can't. I don't feel powerful enough. I feel like I am unbelievably weak against everything to the point where I actually knocked down the difficulty level because I was like, dude, I don't have the time for this right now. And I never do that. I never drop down the difficulty level. But with this game, the checkpointing system, the amount of health, the amount of um, um, weapons and ammo that you get, the amount of damage you do, it is so not fair. I retried this one part, and because, like I said, the checkpointing system is so bad, this one part where you have to do, there's a lot of first person climbing and scaling, which I don't mind ever in games. I think that's fun because it's usually very few and far between, and I never have a problem with it. So I never have to redo it except for this game. There's this part where you fall out of a moving vehicle, you land down, a couple enemies come to get you, which the enemies actually are pretty tough in this game. Even on like normal difficulty, they're pretty tough. And I felt like it took a while, but I was using my powers. Ice is a really cool power. And I started, killing all these guys. And then I have to jump and start crawling. And then this big thing comes across the screen. And if you're not careful, you can get killed by it. So I got killed by it because I didn't know what was going to happen. It's just like a blink of your eye and it happens. So I had to redo it again. And then I missed a jump and died. So I had to redo it again. And then I got a little bit further, and then another time the thing comes into screen and immediately kills me, and so I died. And this happened about 10 times, and I wasted about 45 minutes on this 2-minute section of the game. Like literally 2 minutes it should have taken me. And it took me over 45 minutes because the checkpointing system sucks, and you have to enemies come at you and you just don't feel well equipped or powerful enough to deal with them. So I was just really upset by that. So there are some major flaws with this game, but the game is still enjoyable enough to keep me going, which I really like and I'm really having a good time with. Most of the time, I care about the dialogue, I care about the story, but good grief, I don't understand how people are supposed to get through this on, ultra violent, hardcore difficulty levels because even the normal difficulty is unbelievably hard. That's why I said I just had to drop the difficulty level down because, man, I would never finish this game. And I have way too many games to play. And especially this year. If this came out last year, I probably would have had no problem with it because there was literally nothing else to play last year. There was like 5 games that came out last year that were even any remotely good. So if this came out last year, I would have beat this game on the hardest difficulty and not had a problem with it, and it would have been my game of the year probably. Like Elden Ring, I dumped 90 hours into that game. Why? It was good. It was a good game. But also because there was nothing else out last year. So I could dump 100 hours into a game and not feel anything because that's all there was last year. This year, it's a entirely different story. There's so many games coming out that it's like, wow, I've got some stuff to play, so let's get past this. And I have been playing a ton of games. So that is my experience with Atomic Heart so far, which, again, it's a good game. It's really difficult. Takes way too much of from BioShock to the point where you're kind of almost stealing some of this stuff. Like you could have thought something a little bit different, but it's interesting enough for me to keep going. And then again, the main character just sucks unbelievably bad. Like I'm the main character and I hope I die. That's the way it feels like. So it's a little bit of a bummer, but it's not too bad. So that's Atomic Heart. The other thing that I've been playing, and this is really weird, I don't know why I gravitated toward this and I just latched on, but it's the Mario Kart series. So I always keep a list of games that I beat throughout the year. Every time I beat a game and see credits, I add another, I add it to the list of games I beat throughout that year. And I've been doing this since 2010, I think, somewhere around there. Um, Even earlier than that, but I lost the list, years ago. And so I created a Google Doc and I've had it since then. But basically, every year I play a bunch of video games. And last year, again, because there was nothing coming out, I barely played anything. Last year was a really tough year with traveling and work and life and just crap happening that I just did not play many games through all the way to completion. I played games throughout the entire year. I just didn't play through a ton of them through completion. It was the shortest list I've ever had in my life of game completions. I still played and beat around, I think, 40 or so, like maybe 50, but that's nothing to years past. And so I really been trying to play through games and games series that I've never played through before. I have played through the Mario Kart series, but not all of them. And so I knew that Mario Kart was a game that I could do pretty quickly. And there was news about the new Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So I kind of have an issue with this, and I'll talk about it a little bit later. But Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch is doing DLC. And they already had DLC when it was on the Wii U. So this is double DLC. And what they're doing is they're adding all the older retro tracks and redoing a lot of them. And they're doing that as DLC, as cups. You have 4 tracks per cup. And so the news was coming out like, hey, the new, booster pack, as they're calling it, with 2 new tracks per booster pack. And this is the 4th one that just came out. They have these booster packs that add new tracks to the game. And I was like, oh man, that's kind of cool. So I loaded up the Yuzu emulator and I started playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And then I went, you know what? Why don't I just play through the series? Because the series is pretty quick. I could add a couple games to my list to kind of bulk it up a little bit because I knew the last couple of weeks and these next few weeks in my life are unbelievably busy. I am traveling across the country multiple times per month, on an airplane literally once a week at this point, traveling across the country. So my time schedule is just scattered and I don't have the energy. I don't have the time. So knocking out like 3 or 4 games in a span of a week will really help me, feel a little bit better about, this year and playing through games and completing and seeing credits than last year, because I was really bummed out about last year. So I started at the beginning, Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. I remember playing this game when it came out. I remember loving this game on the Super Nintendo. I would have friends come over and we would not just play the Mario Kart Grand Prix, but we would also play the battle mode, which is so much fun. And there is that nostalgia. I will never discredit nostalgia, but you got to treat it correctly. Nostalgia is it can be very strong, but it can be overwhelming and it can be a crutch for a lot of people. People will latch onto something from their childhood or something they have rose colored glasses over and say it's the greatest thing of all time when it's good, but it's definitely not the greatest, especially when you take into account of things in the future, or things that came out later, like Mario Kart, for example. There's the whole thing of the first Mario Kart you played is your favorite. I don't believe that because I think there are definitely good Mario Kart games and extremely bad Mario Kart games. I think when people say the first Mario Kart you played is your favorite, you're looking at it from a very shallow, nostalgia based view or mindset. And I don't like thinking like that. I like coming up with a not a list, but pros and cons and looking at it as objectively as you can. Nothing is going to be completely unbiased. Nothing in your mind and when you go what is my favorite is not going to have some sort of nostalgia attached to it. But you got to be at least a little bit more mindful of hey, well, this was from my childhood and yeah, I have those great memories, but now if I play it, it doesn't, I'm not going to say hold up because I think that is a terrible phrase that people rely way too much on. Most things hold up. You're just, again, you're looking at a different mindset or a view. You have different opinions now. Your opinions have been better informed as you grow, hopefully, in life. So I don't like saying that, but I do think that people really need to put nostalgia in its own little corner and do, rely on a little bit of that, but then also look at it as objectively as you can. It's not going to be 100% objective. You're going to have favorites because of that's how life is and nostalgia, but you gotta give it a little bit extra. So, this is my experience with the Mario Kart series as of 2023. So, when I played the original Mario Kart on Super Nintendo and when I was a kid, I loved it. I thought it was super fun. Playing it now by myself, I had a lot of fun. I think most of it came down to the music. I think the music is just really well done. It does bring me back into that childlike mindset and it made me just smile and have a good time. I think some of the um, fanfare music is just fantastic. As us as gamers, have grown up, we've come into the modern age with um, YouTube channels that just devote their lives to picking apart video games and telling the differences between, regions of video games as well. So the Japan region of Super Mario Kart, they have the characters drinking the champagne when they win and they get all red and flushed in their face because they're quote unquote drunk or drinking. But Nintendo of America wouldn't allow that, so they changed the animation to where they're just flipping the champagne bottle up but not drinking it. So we all have like those new associations as well with those games and picking apart all these retro games for content and stuff like that. I love Super Mario Kart and I think it's a really good game, but it's definitely not my favorite, even though it was my first. And I had a really good time with it, but I definitely didn't have the best time with it for the fact that I didn't play it with anyone else. Mario Kart is definitely a series that is a multiplayer focused series. It is always going to be better when you are playing with someone else. Heck, half of the game is locked out to me because I didn't have another person playing with me. There is the battle mode, which gives you a couple different locations or maps that are square based, where you just try and find the other person and shoot them with red shells and they pop the balloons. And man, it's great. I think, again, I haven't played it since like 1992 or 3 because I don't have anyone to play a Mario Kart with me. My wife definitely could, and she probably would if I asked her, but She was busy, she was working, I had a day off, I played it for, a couple hours and beat uh, the Grand Prix of each cup in both the 50cc and 100cc or whatever it is, 100cc and 150cc. Again, I played so much I can't remember. But basically, the game itself is really fun, but there's only half of it. I really enjoyed my time with it. And then I moved on. I went to Mario Kart 64, the Nintendo 64 Mario Kart, which I have really good memories of not just playing with my friend, but even going with my friend to Costco. And I think, I could be misremembering, but I think his parents picked up the game while we were at Costco because they had a demo unit, and we were like, "Oh man, Mario Kart, this looks so cool." And I remember playing the Donkey Kong level, Donkey Kong Jungle Parkway or whatever it's called. And you do the jump, and there's that riverboat that comes across in like the second and third laps. I remember specifically that time in the moment in my life when I did that jump for the first time and saw, your character soaring in a cart over a river. And I was just like, oh, this is like Evil Knievel. This is so cool. Oh man, I loved it. I loved it so much. And then they also introduced a newer version of the battle mini game in that. And so I just remember having a really good time with Mario Kart. I also remember, I'll just tell stories, as I go through these as well, because it's really, really interesting. The very basic, but very clear memories I have of Mario Kart 64. Another one was we were at a church potluck. It was called Koinonia, I believe it was. And it was this church potluck for our youth group. And my friend was really into the youth group, and I was kind of the outsider coming in for like the first or second time. And we went to someone's house and we had this big potluck, and they had Mario Kart 64 on a big screen TV in their family room. And I just remember playing the Calamari Desert, the one with the railroad track and the train that comes by. And I just remember going, oh my gosh, Mario Kart looks so cool. I really need to get my parents to buy this game for me. And man, Nintendo 64 does hold a special place in my heart. I was older, at the time when that game came out, not by much. I wasn't in high school. I was still pretty young. I was still 11 or 12, I think, when 64 came out. But I had a Nintendo originally, and then I got a Super Nintendo, and then I did get a 64 when that came out, a little bit after that came out, like a year after. But man, Nintendo 64 it was really groundbreaking at the time, and I think modern people, modern mindsets really don't give the 64 enough justice. Looking back at the games, yes, most of them look like garbage, especially third party, except for Rare. But most of those games, yes, the characters are polygonal. Yes, they are very blocky. Yes, there's a lot of fog on Nintendo 64, but it is still a fantastic game and or system. And I highly recommend those, first party and second party games and Rare games, definitely, and all that stuff. There's good games on every system. You can't just say a system sucks because you're a fanboy. That is a stupid way of thinking. And you actually don't like video games. You like a brand if you say that. Nintendo 64 had some great games, and it had some really bad games. Again, you can be objective. You don't have to let nostalgia, guide your thought process. You can look at this stuff objectively and go, yeah, that was not very good. That game wasn't very good. That time period wasn't very good. But there's still always diamonds in the rough, or whatever you want to call them, hidden gems or whatever. But there's a lot of good games on the Nintendo 64. Mario Kart 64 is one of them. It's really interesting because a lot of people don't realize this, The world and the race tracks are three-dimensional, but your character is a sprite. And it's just it always blows my mind. It's a pre-rendered sprite, and it's just like, what is happening here? Why was it made that way? I would really like a better understanding of why it's sprite based. Um, but it's really cool. They have modders, they being modders, have made a mod that is called Mario Kart 64 HD, 1080p or 4K. I can't remember what it is, but it is all HD versioned. And it looks really interesting. I still have yet to play it, but I do want to play it at some point. So I played Mario Kart 64. I had a really fun time with that. And then I got to the Mario Kart Super Circuit, which was the Game Boy Advance version of Mario Kart, which I did play before. I did enjoy it, but it was really interesting because it goes back to the Super Nintendo style of animation and characters and the way it's made. I didn't have a whole lot of time with that, but I did. I think I got it on the 3DS with the Ambassador program. So if no one is familiar with this, or if you don't remember what the Ambassador program was, Nintendo has a history, and people forget this all the time, of releasing consoles and them not doing really good and then them blowing up, like just going bonkers with these sales. 3DS was abysmal. It did so poorly at launch that they had to do I believe it was $100 price cut. And for those, and that was in the first, I think, 3 to 6 months of the games or the system's release. I think it was 3 months. $100 price cut because it did not sell. So what was funny is I was running the game store at the time, and I could not get my my distributors to get me any, consoles, right off the bat or whatever. And they announced this thing. We're doing $100 price cut for we're doing $100 price cut for the 3DS. For those of you who have already bought a 3DS, up until Monday, before the $100 price cut goes into effect, you can redeem a voucher online with your account that gets you the Ambassador program. And the Ambassador program was a handful of games for retro games, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and Game Boy Advance games on the eShop for free that I believe were exclusive. I can't remember if they unlocked or, later on or whatever. I think there was a couple of them that were straight up exclusive. I should bust out my 3DS. It's in the other room. I might do that after this. But the Ambassador program was really cool. And it was like, oh, dude, yeah, I already own all these games on the emulator, but I could get these on a 3DS. But I didn't have a 3DS. But I wanted that $100 price cut. But I also wanted the Ambassador program. So there was I can't remember if it was, I don't think I was on Reddit at the time. There was some post, whether it was on a forum or something, where they said, Walmart is doing the $100 price cut right now before the official price cut, and you can still get into the Ambassador program. So I actually, my girlfriend at the time was doing a concert. She was singing with a band, and I went during one of their practices while they were practicing. I drove to a Walmart like 40 minutes away, picked up a 3DS, got online, and got the Ambassador program that night. But I also got the $100 price cut as well. So I was super stoked about that, and I still got it. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, I'm sorry. So the whole reason I told that story was because that is how I played Mario Kart Super Circuit. The Game Boy Advance version is on the 3DS. It's an interesting game. It's not that great, but it's decent. And then I moved on to the GameCube version, which was Mario Kart Double Dash. Double Dash holds again a special place in my heart because it is one of the very few video games that I've played with my sister. My sister is younger than me by several years, and she's never been a video game player, but we did play Mario Kart Double Dash together. I was out of high school. I was in college, but I was still living with my parents at the time. And so I was hanging out with my sister, and she was still younger. She was in elementary school, and she came into my room one day, and I just bought Double Dash. I'm not a big GameCube person, but Double Dash was like, hey, it's Mario Kart on the new Nintendo system, so I might as well play it. And it was really interesting because Double Dash introduced the double cart system where you pick two characters in one cart, and it is a multiplayer co-op experience. Because Mario Kart has been originally competitive, but with Double Dash, you could do competitive and just race against other friends, or you can be on the same cart together and do co-op, cooperational multiplayer. And that is what I love about video games. I really do not like competitive multiplayer aspects. Give me a cooperational multiplayer aspect in a game, and I am all over it. I like having fun with my friends, not against them. That's just me, though. So I played that with my sister, and we bonded over that video game. And so anytime I ever bring up Mario Kart Double Dash, she's like, oh my gosh, I love that game. That was so fun. So it's really cool because you get to basically, one person is the driver, one person is the items thrower. And so there is a lot of strategy, and there needs to be communication with the two players playing together, which is really, really cool. And so I love that aspect. I think Double Dash is one of the best Mario Karts over Super Nintendo, over Nintendo 64. It is probably my second favorite Mario Kart. There's also a couple really good tracks, like unbelievably good tracks. And unfortunately, I don't have a list because I played these games in the span of like 3 days, late at night, uh, in the span of 3 days. And so I did not create a list of Mario Kart games, but I think I'm going to. So look out in the next week or so of on gameordie.net, which is my website. I want to create a list of Mario Kart, my favorite Mario Kart tracks. Anyways, on with the recounting of the series. So Double Dash has a couple really good tracks that are very small and chaotic, but a good chaotic. And this is unfortunately one of the big issues with the modern day Mario Karts is there's a lot of chaos, but it's uncontrolled chaos, and it's not very fun. Double Dash has a controlled chaos, especially with multiplayer, co-op multiplayer, because you can talk with the other person, say, hey, save that, or, let's switch up. You drive and I'll throw instead of you throw the item and I drive. So there's multiple different ways that you can do stuff. There's a lot of, just creativity with that game. There's a couple really bad levels, but there's some phenomenal levels that are some of my favorites in the entire series in that game. One that I do want to talk about really quickly is, I believe it's Waluigi's Stadium. Like on Nintendo 64, you have Wario Stadium, and it's like a big stadium with dirt and mounds, kind of like a big dirt bike, course. Waluigi's Stadium is very similar, but it's more compact. It's a much smaller map, and there is so much more chaos going on, but it is fun and it is very fast. So that is like one of my favorite levels. That's definitely going to be near the top of my Mario Kart track list. So Double Dash is really fun. I really enjoyed that. And then I moved on to the DS version, which is, I can't remember. It's just called, I think it's called Mario Kart DS. And I think I played one level of this when it first came out. But unfortunately, I had a really bad time with this game. And the reason why is because the rubber banding is really awful. And this is one of my biggest gripes against racing games is the rubber banding is a terrible way to make games fun because it penalizes you for doing good. If you play these games and you are good at racing, you get penalized by getting blue shells constantly. You get penalized by the game catching up to you and staying in contact as fast as they possibly can when you are making perfect turns. And then at the very end of a race, you're 3 laps in and you see the finish line, you get hit with a blue shell, you're in 5th place. Even though you spent the entire race in 1st place by a very large margin, the rubber banding will catch up with you. The characters will get the best items. You will get the worst items, and it creates false competition. And I just don't like it. I think it's unfair, and it penalizes you, the player, for being good at the game. And I think that's stupid. So that is one of my biggest gripes about all of Mario Kart. One of the most egregious ones is Mario Kart DS. I think some of the kart designs are actually really cool in that game. I think Mario's like just Formula One looking racer looks rad. It's like my favorite, one of my favorite kart designs of all the games. But I just had such a poor time with this. And so I had a really bad time with the DS. So I just beat it as fast as I could and I moved on to the next one. Unfortunately, the next one is the Wii. I hate Mario Kart Wii. And I probably hate this more. Yeah, I do. This is my most hated Mario Kart. I remember when the Wii was coming out and it blew up and, it was like the end all be all. It was really hard to find for like the first year of its life cycle. When Mario Kart Wii came out, people lost their freaking minds over this stupid game, and it became one of the greatest selling video games of all time. It outsold the console. That means more people bought the game than there are consoles. That means multiple households have multiple versions of this game. If there's 15 million Wiis, there's 20 million Wii copies of the game. It's ridiculous. I don't mean to go on a rant, but here we are. Anyways, the reason why I have a big issue with this game and why I think it's the worst Mario Kart game out of all of the entire series is the rubber banding's even more egregious than in Mario Kart DS. It is worse. And the inclusion of the motorcycles. It's called Mario Kart. Why are there motorcycles involved? And it is the easiest Mario Kart game as well. I mean, you go, wait, didn't you say it was the worst case of rubber banding? It's worse, but it's the easiest? Yes. It is the easiest Mario Kart. And I was actually kind of blown away because I remember when this game first came out, I was living in Colorado and I had a hacked Wii. So I downloaded the game and I played it and I went, holy crap, this is really easy. I beat it without ever getting second place or less. I got first place on everything within the first try, and then I just never picked the game up again. And after so many years, I came back to this game now and I was like, "Oh, that's right. I remember this game being really easy." So I played through it and I actually had a really difficult time and I was like, "Did I get worse at video games? What happened?" I remember complaining about this online or in the video game store, about Mario Kart Wii sucks because it's super easy. It's the easiest Mario Kart ever. It's the easiest racing game of all time. What happened? And so, like, the last course, the last cup, second to last course or something like that I was playing through, I I saw the motorcycles doing wheelies and I went, "Wait, how do I do that?" And so like I finished the game, I saw the credits, and I went to YouTube really quick and like just Googled like how to do a wheelie in Mario Kart Wii. And I went, "Oh, that's right. Oh, that's right. The wheelie does a boost. That's why it's so easy. Because you can just boost infinitely throughout the game." And so I loaded up the game again. I did a new cup and I got first place every single time without failure. Even though I got hit with blue shells, even though the rubber banding was egregious and terrible, I got first place every time without failure, without even trying. I just kept double tapping or whatever it is to get the boost. And man, just without failure, without even trying, I got first place. So I went, "Oh, that's right." And I hope I never play Mario Kart Wii again. I think it is a terrible game. I think it is the worst game. And so, two really bad Mario Kart games back to back really soured me. I was getting close to finishing the series, though. So I just kind of bit my tongue and dived right into the next game, which is Mario Kart 3DS, or called Mario Kart 7. This restored my faith in the series. The level design is very creative. There's a lot of really fun levels that do something different than most of the levels in the series don't ever touch. And I just had a blast with this. There was one point where I was just kind of bummed. And again, it's because of the rubber banding. So, this Mario Kart 7, Mario Kart 3DS, introduces a glider, the gliding system, to your karts. So, you'll hit jumps, and a parachute or a gliding component will pop out of the back of the car, and the car or cart will auto glide down to the ground. There is one course, I think it's called Woohoo Island. And Woohoo Island is the Wii Sports Resort Island that they created, with Wii Sports, where those are played. It's all takes place on an island. And this is one of the very few courses in the entire series of Mario Kart where instead of laps, it's point A to point B, and there's checkpoints that go 1 out of 3, 2 out of 3, 3 out of 3. So it is a not straight line, but it is from point A to point B instead of 3 laps around a circular track. At the very end of Woohoo Island, there is this very long gliding section where you are gliding over water and you have to land on an island where the finish line is. So I leap up into the air. I am gliding. I see the island in the distance. And I'm like, I'm in first place. This is great. I'm going to finish this cup. Gold star, blah, blah, blah. This is awesome. I'm waiting. And I hear the beep, 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 beep of the item incoming to get me. I get hit by a red shell. And for whatever reason, the red shells now are programmed to hit you in the air. So they will literally fly and home in. Yeah, red shells have always been homing missiles, but they never left the ground. If you were in the air, you would never get hit with a red shell. Blue shells, totally different story. Blue shells, I think, are the worst power-up item in all of video games. Again, you're penalized and tortured for doing good at the game. I think that's freaking sucks. But I got hit with a red shell and I fell down. But instead of having Lakitu pick me up and then, carry me over, because the very end of the race is point A to point B and then you're flying over an ocean, I got dropped right before I hit like it's not all water where you would sink. It's shallow water where you can drive on. And if you go off course in those games, you're basically driving through mud, like molasses, and you cannot, drive fast. And so I got hit with the red shell. I fell all the way to the bottom where I have to drive through this shallow lake of water all the way to the very end where the finish line is. And I'm just watching all the characters that were behind me fly over me and get first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and I think I got sixth. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Because I was in first place the entire time. Because I'm good, right? I'm good at these games. But because of that one red shell, I think I got a silver. No, I think I still got gold because I got first in all the other ones. But I was really bummed out about, having to get that last race not a first place. But I really had a good time with 3DS. I think the Mario Kart 7 is one of the better games of the Mario Kart series. It's probably one of the best. And then we come to Mario Kart 8. And this is kind of stupid because there are 8 Mario Karts, but there are 9 Mario Kart games in a series of Mario Karts. We have Mario Kart 1, which is Super Nintendo or Super Mario Kart. Mario Kart 2, which is Nintendo 64 or Mario Kart 64 as the name is on the box. Then we have Mario Kart Super Circuit, which is the Game Boy Advance one, which is Mario Kart 3. Mario Kart 4, which is Mario Kart Double Dash on the GameCube. Mario Kart DS, which is Mario Kart 5 on the Nintendo DS, obviously. Mario Kart 6, which is Mario Kart on the Wii, or just called Mario Kart Wii. And then Mario Kart 7, which is on the 3DS, and then Mario Kart 8, which came out on the Wii U. I remember when this game came out, no one else had a Wii U. I did, because I have every video game system. Why wouldn't I? It's a Nintendo system too. Why wouldn't you buy it? It had some really good games on it, but not a ton. Mario Kart 8, Nintendo Land, which was actually really cool. What else? I'm blanking on the one that I actually really, really liked. Man, I'm blanking on it. But there was some good Wii games or Wii U games. The biggest claim to fame for Mario Kart Wii U or Mario Kart 8 is obviously the Luigi death stare meme, which I hate memes. I think they're dumb, but whatever. I'm not going to get into a big old rant about memes right now. But I really thought this was a interesting game. I just didn't feel like there was a lot of depth to it. And the DLC that did eventually come out after the game was out for a while, I didn't think was very good for the most part. I think the Excite Bike course was really cool. A couple other ones, because what's really interesting, I haven't really talked about this, is most of the games, starting with Mario Kart Super Circuit. So the third game in the series started doing the retro cups, where they would redo the older games courses in that new game, which was really cool. I think that's a great way to kind of bolster and create more content for the game so that the player has more stuff to do. So I thought that was excellent. But that was after I was already kind of done with the Wii U. And this is also at the time where you buy stuff on Nintendo accounts and you're going to have to buy them again with another Nintendo account on our new system that we come out with eventually. So I never buy stuff on Nintendo accounts because why would I? Because I would just have to rebuy them on another Nintendo account that I create when the new system comes out. They were never online linked up until the Switch. The Switch kind of, I believe, fixed that, but I'm still kind of wary about it. But anyways, Mario Kart 8 was fine. I didn't think it was that great. And then instead of creating a new Mario Kart game, they just decided to go with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So they just re-released the game with all the DLC, which in itself is fine, but the DLC kind of sucks. Why? Because they did this weird. I still don't understand A, how it happened, and B, why they actually did it and went through with this and why no one talks about it. They did a Mercedes-Benz DLC for Mario Kart. It stands out like a sore thumb. It makes no sense of why it exists, and it doesn't look good. And it cheapens the entire game because that stuff is in there. So you've got Mario and Peach and Luigi and, Bowser and all this stuff driving around in these weird, crazy carts and motorcycles. And then, here comes Birdo in a Mercedes-Benz S-Class or whatever their naming scheme is for Mercedes-Benz. And you have Mercedes-Benz tires. Like it's so weird. It makes no sense whatsoever. It's baffling. So I kind of started playing this game on the Switch. And it was weird because I was like, dude, I played this game so many times before. Like I can play through the first cup, the mushroom cup or whatever on Mario Kart 8 blindfolded because I know I played it. I use it as a test for emulation, and I just kind of go through the motions. It's not very interesting to me. But now that they're doing the new DLC, the booster packs, where they're adding more retro courses and new courses to the game, I'm having a lot more fun of a time playing through it again. And so I went through the entire original course and then or courses, and then I did all the booster courses. The booster packs are really cool because they take one course from the Super Mario Tour game, which I haven't talked about. And then they do a couple retro games, and then they do courses like from GameCube or Wii or Nintendo 64 or even the Super Nintendo, and kind of redo it in the Super Nintendo style but with 3D. And then they do a brand new course. So they have 3 booster packs, each with 2 cups. So 2, 4, 6, 8 new course cups, each with 4. I am bad at math, so give me 1 second. So we have 4 times 4. That's 16. No. It's 4 times 8. That's 32. 32 new tracks have been added to that game so far. And I think they're doing 6 courses. So that's another 16 tracks altogether. Man, like that's a good deal. If you have the Nintendo Switch Online, I think it's like free or whatever. But I'm not doing that. I have another way of having it free. But it's a good way of making that game playable for a long time, which I think is a really good idea. The new tracks are awesome. The new tracks are really, really cool. I just played the last booster pack last weekend, and it has a Yoshi's Island course or track. And the Yoshi's Island track does not only incorporate the soundtrack of Yoshi's Island from the Super Nintendo, but also the color scheme, the cross-stitch, hand quilt pattern design type of stuff, all the characters. It feels in certain parts of the course, which it's actually kind of a short course, which is the only bummer to it. but it does have a a Disneyland dark ride feel to it, where things are kind of posted so that you are just looking at them. You are just noticing them. And like I said, it's really cool. I think it's awesome. The other thing is that, oh my gosh, they do this super rad thing with or not, they don't do it, but the Super Mario Kart Tour mobile iOS minigame, or not minigame, but the game itself. It's a game. I remember when it came out a couple years ago when Nintendo was like, "Hey, we're doing, mobile gaming now," but they just like subcontracted other companies to make mobile games for iOS and Android. Or is it just iOS? I'm not really sure. I have an iPhone, so I remember when Super Mario Run came out and I bought it for $10 like an idiot. And I was like, it's Mario, I'll play it. But this is still when I was like, hey, I still like Nintendo and I still like Mario. I don't anymore, but that's besides the point. I I bought that and then they did Mario Kart Tour. And I remember playing like a couple tracks of it and going, this kind of sucks. And I just never picked it up again. One of the reasons why I don't like Mario Kart Tour and why I didn't play through it for the series is A, it's on iOS and I don't want to play mobile gaming. B, I don't know if it's paid for, like if I have to pay for it or not, and I just don't have the money or want to pay for, a game that I don't want to play. It's just, why am I going to pay for something if I'm not really into it, right? So I don't own it. I don't want to play it, but they put the courses in the new Mario Kart 8 DLC, so I'll play it there. And the other thing is they're all real life cities, which is super odd. It's that disconnect. It's that weird thing, just like the Mercedes-Benz DLC. Like, why? Why is there Mercedes-Benz DLC? Why am I racing around New York City? Why am I racing around Tokyo, Japan? Why am I racing around Sydney, Australia? They're not really that interesting. Why am I racing around Paris, France? They're all kind of very generic looking, like very generic city landscapes. But they try to incorporate like the major, locations of those cities while still being in Mario Kart. For the most part, I don't think they work. For the most part, I think they suck. Except for one. Sydney, Australia. That course freaking is rad. Not only is the course well designed with multiple, loops so nothing feels the exact same, you are going through the game and the soundtrack for this course is the best Mario Kart soundtrack out there. It is the best course track, period, on that game. It has horns. It has, a very jaunty tune. It is just enjoyable to listen to. So I had an unbelievable time when I loaded up that course and started playing it. I was like, oh, whatever, Sydney, Australia. Within 15 seconds, I'm bouncing up and down in my chair. I've got a smile on my face as I'm playing because it's just so good. It's so good that I will play, that track for you as soon as I'm done talking about this for the break. So, man, I really enjoyed the actual game itself. I thought it was really fun. And Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is probably the best because it just incorporates the most amount of tracks. You have near the entire catalog of the Mario Kart series of tracks in that game. Mario Kart 8 has like I haven't done the math. I probably should, but it probably has at least 75 to 80% of every track in the entire series up to this point. They're definitely going to have all the tour tracks, I'm sure, because I've seen most cities that would be recognizable. Again, Tokyo, Japan, Paris, France, New York City, Sydney, Australia. Like, what other, London? I'm pretty sure there's a London track. Um, I'm sure there's a San Francisco track for whatever reason. I'm sure hippies are going to be crapping on the streets in that one or whatever. But it's a really good game. So I don't knock it for that. I was just kind of bummed that when they went to the Switch, they just said, we're just going to re-release Mario Kart 8. And then they did good by updating it with releasing DLC and new tracks as well. So good on them. But that has been my kind of dive into the Mario Kart series, and I've been really enjoying it. I had a lot of fun. It was also really pleasurable because I could kind of turn my brain off. I could just kind of hang out and play through these games in an evening, one game per evening or even two games per evening, and just kind of relax a little bit. I didn't have to take it too seriously. I didn't have to, worry about, am I going to get first place or not for the most part, except for Mario Kart DS and Mario Kart Wii. The rubber banding in those games are bad, but most of the other games, they're not too bad. They're kind of crappy though, because you'll still get screwed for the most part if you do good in the game, and that sucks. But I had a really fun time playing through the Mario Kart games. So that's been my experience. With that, we're going to take a quick break. And then when I come back, I will talk about not what I'm looking forward to. That's other show notes. I'm sorry. I'll talk about the main topic and the game of the month as well. So we'll take a quick break. Okay. Really quick, let's take a sponsor break for Factor 75. This podcast is being sponsored. So you can use the affiliate link in the description where you can actually get a discount for Factor 75. If you don't know, they are a HelloFresh brand that does the convenience and saves time and alleviates stress for prepping food. If you actually are not a food prepper, it's actually really cool. It's very easy to do. I've done it. My wife does it. We do it every once in a while when I'm actually at home and not traveling. But it's really nice to be able to come home and have all that stuff ready to go so that you can just cook your food really quickly. So there's no prep, there's no mess. Factor cuts out the stressful meal planning and extensive prepping that meals come together in minutes. So just like in a few minutes. I stream most of the time for my job when I do online training. So when I'm online training, I'm sitting here talking in a microphone for 8 hours straight. It's exhausting. When I go up to go have dinner after a long day, I don't want to sit there and cook. So Factor 75 is a great way to be able to cut down on that prep time and be able to just get right into eating. And what's really nice is they actually have really good food that factors into wellness and fitness requirements. So Factor helps you by reaching your fitness goals. I'm a big dude. I definitely need to lose weight. I am on a weight loss journey of some sorts. Kind of bad at it, but I'm trying. So, fitness starts with good food, and Factor makes it possible for you to achieve your daily goals through nutritious, purposeful eating and ingredients with the integrity and dietitian approved. So, some good stuff in that box. It also is flexible for your daily life, so it fits your lifestyle. Like I said, sometimes I'm just not able to cook, or I don't have the desire or energy to do it. So having those ready to go, like tonight, my wife's, out working. She's going to come home late. I'm doing this podcast. I don't want to cook, as soon as I get done talking. So Factor 5 would be a perfect choice for us tonight to be able to, just sit down and eat together when we're done doing our thing. You don't have to worry about takeout either. Takeout, it's bad for us. We all know this. So make sure that you can get some good, nutritious food in you without having to order takeout. Like I said, there's no prep time, there's no mess. It's all ready to go for you. And it is perfect for gamers. Hey, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So it is convenience that never felt so good. Factor's no hassle prepared foods make sure that you always have something nutritious on hand when you don't have time to think about or make lunch or dinner plans. Grab a prepared smoothie or a keto shake for a quick snack, or heat and eat a chef quality meal in just 2 minutes with no prep or cleanup necessary. So you can stay focused on what you love to do, which is games. And that's what we're going to talk about. So that has been our sponsored ad break for Factor 75. We're going to give them a try, so you might as well too. And hey, it helps me out. I am not able to do this all the time. I am not able to do sponsored content all the time, but when I do, I want to do it because, hey, it helps me be able to do more of this stuff. And, it gives me the desire to do it as well because, hey, it's not just a hobby, it's also a lifestyle. All right. Thank you very much. We'll be right back with more podcasting. All right. Okay. So we are back with the podcast, the Couch Money, Couch Discord gaming server podcast called Couch Cash Repeat. This segment, Couch Talk. Let's talk. Let's talk on the couch. Let's talk about a subject for an extended period of time. Not just what I've been playing, but something that kind of grinds my gears a little bit. Actually, uh, I actually just want this segment to basically be a discussion between me and a co-host. Unfortunately, Kit Robin, who used to be a co-host on this program, is not doing it anymore. It's a bummer. He just kind of, wanted to step away, which is fine. But I am looking for a co-host. So if anyone does want to join in on this podcast, they could be a guest. This is one time or a rotating chair if you want to. That'd be more than fantastic. But basically, I'm coming up with, topics that we can discuss, and not just topics of what's your favorite game of all time, or do you like this or that, or whatever. I want something that we can actually kind of discuss for an extended period of time on the podcast. So this one is going to be games that I was burned by. And when I mean burned, I mean bummed out. Something that really soured me on video games as a whole, or a publisher, or a developer, or even an idea, maybe even a system. But a game that I was burned by, where I just felt like, I was slighted. I was, done wrong, done dirty, whatever you want to call it. So I had another topic, but I actually want to. I kind of wrote the subject matter in a very heat of the moment, and thinking about it earlier today, I was like, yeah, I want to change this to something else. And I think the when I was burned is something pretty interesting, because there's definitely something I was burned by. Multiple games, but I really think something that came to my mind instantly was Sea of Thieves. So let's get a little bit intimate right now. Sea of Thieves is a Microsoft published game by Rare. And Rare is now owned by Microsoft as of 2001, so it's been like 20 years. But was it 2001 or 2003? I can't remember. It's been about 20 years since Microsoft bought Rare, and so they are a first party company now. And Rare was at the top of their game for so long. And then when Microsoft bought them, the quality definitely seemed to dip. I'm not saying they're terrible, but there's a lot of Rare games now on the original Xbox, the 360, the Xbox One, Series S, whatever you want to call it now. The Microsoft platform has definitely not seen the same quality of Rare games that Nintendo had. Partly because most of those people who made those games that we grew up with, Donkey Kong Country, Perfect Dark, GoldenEye, all those people, they're long gone from the company. They don't work there anymore. So you're not going to get the same exact quality. That's why we've got people, most of the people from Rare left and created Free Radical, and they did the Time Splitter series and things like that. So like those people have all left either the industry or went to a new studio long ago. But when Rare came out, E3 2015, maybe 2016, and they showed off a pirate game, I went, oh man, I am super excited. Because if you know me at all, I love pirates. I love the pirate movies. I love pirates and the history of pirates. Pirates of the Caribbean is one of my favorite rides. It is my favorite ride at Disneyland of all time. Like, I love pirates. When Assassin's Creed Black Flag came out, I lost my freaking mind with how cool that game is. Even now, I want to go play it right now because it is so well done with how the pirate lifestyle is portrayed. Not like the pillaging and plundering so much as the fighting. The fighting in that game is so cool. When you are on your ship and you're in a battle in the ocean and you damage your opponent's ship so much that you can board them, you get next to them, you attach your hooks, and then you can swing across and leap into the air and stab a dude on the deck of your opposing ship and have a big pirate battle in the storm, in a rainstorm. It is one of the coolest things I've ever done in any video game. So I was stoked to learn that Rare was making what seemed like really cool new pirate game that was going to let you sail the seven seas, and it was going to be in that more kind of British dry humor, so maybe a little bit like Monkey Island, type of humor or something like that. I was really, really, really interested. I was hyped for that game. And then the game was going to come out. And give me 1 second. I'll be right back. I'm going to take just, 10 seconds to go in the other room and grab my thing that I'm going to show. Hold on 1 second. Okay. I know this is a podcast, so I'm sorry, but I need to show this on screen for those of you who are watching live. This is a Sea of Thieves Xbox One game controller. It's a special edition. They only sold it for a limited time, and it has all the Sea of Thieves, not branding, but kind of. It's got their skull logo on the middle. It's got two different colored triggers, one black, one gold on the right hand side. It's purple and see through. It has some green splattered paint, and some of it actually has this coral design on the handles, and it also has a compass for the left thumbstick. So it has north, south, east, and west on the thumbsticks as well, and it glows in the dark. It is a rad controller. And I have it here because it's the controller I use down here when I game. Excuse me. But I was all in for this game. I was so excited. And 2 weeks before they released the game, and this game was delayed and delayed and not talked about for years. So it finally was coming out. 2 weeks, they did a closed beta version. And I signed up multiple times. I signed up as many times as I possibly could. I got into that closed beta. I was so excited. And so I started playing it. And unfortunately, the game itself is very focused on multiplayer. Theoretically, at the time when it was coming out, you could play single player, but it was extremely hard to do. It was pretty much impossible. And I think in the closed beta, you couldn't do single player. You had to be matched up with other players, which I'm not really about. I don't like playing with other players, especially random people online. I just have no desire to be matched up with either a 12-year-old who's going to swear and cuss and, say bad things and just try to be funny online or stream it. I have no idea and desire to, play with people, who I just can't understand maybe, or just I don't want to interact with people. I don't want to be on a microphone. And this game requires you to really interact with the people on your crew, because when you set sail, each person has their own dedicated station. One person steers the ship at the steering wheel. One person raises the masts, the mizzen masts and stuff like that. One person is the map coordinator, like where you literally just look at the map and tell everyone, the person steering the ship where to go. So it's really designed in a very awkward way that does not encourage single player, playing. It is a multiplayer game at its core. So that right there was kind of a bummer. It also was a bummer because during the closed beta, sorry, my mind's going a little bit. I'm getting tired. During the closed beta, the game itself required you to play with multiple people, and the content that was available was pretty shallow. The gameplay itself was shallow, although pretty. It's still a very gorgeous looking game. But the stuff that you do felt weird. And it felt weird to me because I don't play MMOs. I don't like MMOs. And this game, Sea of Thieves, felt like an MMO without the M, the first M. It was a multi-online player game. It just required you to play this game and do very basic things over and over and over again without any real reason other than to do it. And then there was no real reward for doing it either. So I'm going to start unpacking what this game really is. You create a character that is based basically on two or three very overly exaggerated body types. And you create a pirate that looks like one of, let's say, seven different, you know, character looks. So you and four other people basically could possibly look the exact same because there was only a couple different customization options. So right there, I didn't feel like it was that interesting because it was like, oh, I could be a big fat guy, which I am in real life, so I don't want to do that in a video game. Or I could be a super, 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 super twig of a old guy, or I could be a woman. It was like three archetypes, body characters. And then I could basically have a beard or no beard, or I can wear a scarf or no scarf. I can have an eye patch, but no eye patch. And that was pretty much it. That was like all of the customization options in the closed beta. So I was like, oh, that kind of sucks, whatever. And then when I got onto the actual game, it lets me out. Like I start in a pub, like man, I'm trying to think of the word and can't think of it right now. But I start in this tavern. That's the word I'm looking for. I start in this tavern, and then all I can do is look around this island, this very small island that just kind of has a couple things to do. I can go to a shop, but I don't have any money. And I can go to this person who will give me a job. So I get a job. And then I go to the ship where all the other people I got hooked up with in this world, which is just three other people. We have to go set sail. And so we set sail, we figure out how the map works. One person is the captain, the other people take orders, and that's no fun unless you're the captain and steering the ship. So your job, if you are not the captain, like let's say you are the person in charge of sales, you have about 15 seconds of gameplay. You go to the first sail, you lower it so that the wind catches the sails. And then you go to the other sail and you lower it so that it catches more sails. And that's all you do until you get to the place that you're going. You just kind of stand and look around. If you're the person in the map, you got to look at the map and tell the captain, hey, we need to head left. No, we need to head right. Head starboard, head port. And then that's it. That's all you have to do. If you're the captain, you're continually steering left or right in whatever direction the map person is telling you to. And the map person can, periodically look at the map to tell you if you're going the right way or the wrong way. And then that's pretty much it. And then there's another person who kind of just does nothing from what I remember. And that's no fun. So once you get to the location that you're supposed to be at, you unload, and let's say you have to fight some skeletons. There's like 3 skeletons on the island. They're protecting buried treasure. So you kill all the skeletons, and then you find a map. One person pulls out the map. One person holds a lantern. One person has a shovel. So each person has their own thing that they need to do. So the person holds the map out, and then they just look. And then the person holding the lantern pulls the lantern out, and then they just look. So those 2 people are doing the thing that they need to do, which takes about a quarter of a second, and then they just stand there for however long until the person with the shovel goes wherever the people tell them, and then maybe the other person, the 4th person, holds a lantern to light the path where the person is digging. Everyone has their own unique design or set of options that or objectives that they need to do, but they can't do anything other than that. And that's where the gameplay just kind of fell apart for me. I got really bummed out. I was like, well, okay, that kind of sucks. I did not really have fun with it. I spent about half an hour with this group of people. We sailed back to the main island to turn the quest in because these are just quest givers where you do the quest and then you just turn them in. And then we just needed to do it again. Like, we got another quest, and it was the same exact thing. Sail to the same island, go do the same thing, find the buried treasure, and bring it back here. And we all kind of collectively went, oh, that kind of sucks. You know what? I'm gonna log in later tonight and see if maybe it's just a glitch. Yeah, it's got to be a glitch, guys. Oh yeah, totally. It's totally a glitch. Oh man, why don't we think of that? Okay, we'll log in. Hopefully we get grouped together. If not, it was fun playing with you. GG, good game, good game. Blah blah blah. All right, bye guys. So I logged out, loaded it up again an hour later or so. Did the same thing. Loaded up with a new group of people, and it was the same quest. And I was like, yeah, I got this, same quest, earlier today. And then we all left. We were thinking, it's got to be a bug, guys. All right. So I logged in again later that night, and I got a new quest, but it was very similar. It was go to the same island, fight the group of skeletons, but instead of buried treasure in this grotto, it was in a cave. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then I think there was a boss character or something, whatever. Bring it back, give the quest. And I was like, man, that kind of sucks. Like, there's not really that much to do in this game. That's super weird. But hey, it's a closed beta. It's a closed beta. There's obviously, blocking off, all this other extra stuff for the actual game itself. So I'm sure in a week, next week when they launch the game, it'll unlock everything. And then I started watching other people play it online, and they were experiencing the same thing. Oh man, there's nothing to do. We played, all of the content in this, closed beta in 20 minutes. And I was online in those chats going, don't worry, I did the same thing. They're obviously they're going to have more than 20 minutes of gameplay experience for this gigantic game that they've been working on for several years, in secret. Obviously, they have more stuff coming, so whatever. And I was still stoked about it. I was just a little bit bummed. So the day before the game came out, I pre-ordered the game, dropped $60 on it because it's a pirate game. It's made by Rare. I love Microsoft. I'm going to have a fun time with this. I downloaded or preloaded the game, bought the game for $60. And then the day that it was coming out, they announced it was going to be on Game Pass, which is brand new. Brand new. And this was the first game that they did where they dropped the game on Game Pass day one for free. Yes, Game Pass is a subscription, so you have to pay for it to get the game, but you get the game for free with the subscription for however long. And since it's a first-party title, it's always going to be on there. So I downloaded the game, and I already had the game downloaded, but it was on Game Pass, so I was like, I just spent $60 on a free game. But I was excited still in my naivete because it's a pirate game, it's Rare, it's the gameplay itself, the core gameplay is kind of enjoyable. I'm sure as soon as the content gets unlocked when the game goes live, I'm going to have a blast. I'm going to spend 15 hours. I'm going to take a day off of work. My wife's going to watch me. I'm going to stream it. I'm going to have a ton of fun. And then I played the same mission again, loaded up again, and realized, oh, I played through the whole game. I saw all of the content in that closed demo, in that closed beta. The entire game is about 20 minutes long. But it's emergent gameplay. It's what happens to you while you're on, the ship. All the stories with your crew, and they can bust out a, I can't remember, a hurdy-gurdy and play the, Ride of the Valkyries and stuff. And it's like, that is not worth $60. I'm sorry. I don't care who you are. That's not $60 worth of fun. And so I played this game for hours. I played it for like 7 or 8 hours doing the same freaking mission multiple times, hoping that there was new content, and there was nothing. And that's when I deleted the game and I didn't play it again. Oh no, I take that back. I did play it that same night, that first night with this controller, with the super special edition controller, um, with my friend Sean, because I said, dude, like we were both really excited to play it, and we made a promise to each other we would play it together online. Launch day, the day launch day, I played it a little bit before him, and then he was going to go buy it later that night at Best Buy. And I said, do not buy it. Spend $1 on Game Pass. So you have Game Pass for 30 days for $1 for the special trial thing or whatever. Download it. We'll play together, but do not buy this game. Do not buy this game. Do not buy Sea of Thieves. And so we played, and even in the course of that 20 minutes for that same skeleton mission, digging up buried treasure, he was like, dude, I'm not having that much fun. This kind of sucks. And I said, yeah, I'm not either. I thought there was going to be more to this game. I don't know. I just don't know I don't know how they released this game for full price, $60 with 20 minutes of content. Like I was I was shaking. I was so upset. And I was apologizing to him for a game he didn't even buy, but he spent $1 on, and I still think that was too much for Sea of Thieves. I was so pissed off. I was so mad. I was so burned by Sea of Thieves and Rare and Microsoft. So pissed off because there's nothing to that game. And for years, for the first several months, I kept posting on Reddit and forums and all, what is the deal with this game? I have to be missing something, right? There has to be more than a single mission. I'm over-exaggerating just a tiny bit, okay? I know. There's like 3 missions, but they're all basically the exact same. And I was so pissed off. And I was like, what is even the point of going and getting these treasures and like getting coins? Like you do the missions so that you can get coins. What do the coins do? Oh, it's cosmetic. Like, oh, you can upgrade stuff. So you can buy, a new shirt or a new, gold sword instead of a silver sword, or you can buy a hook for a hand. And I said, okay, cool. So that's obviously got to do something to my character. It's got to be a buff, right? So like if I get the gold sword, it's got to do 3 times as much damage, right? Nope. It is 1000% cosmetic, meaning the stuff that you have at the very beginning of the game is just as good and is the exact same as if you dump 1,000 hours into that game. Every person is at the exact same level of play, no matter how much you've played. You all start with the same stuff, and you all just look different if you dump time, which is way more important than money, into that game. I just about lost my mind when I heard that. It's all cosmetic. Are you freaking kidding me? Are you serious? What is wrong with you people? And then I was joined into the subreddit for that for like the first year. And they would have, like, on the anniversary of the game's release, they had people, baking cakes and sending stuff to Rare, and you could get Pirate Legend if you did the same exact mission 400 times in a row and you wasted your entire life playing this game. You would make Pirate Legend and you would have a little icon, a gold icon or check mark on your, gamer profile tag. Big effing deal. Who freaking cares? What is the point of that? It's all status symbol stuff, and I hate that in games. So I was so burned by Sea of Thieves. I was so pissed off for several years. Game came out in 2017, I believe. And in 2021, they came out with a Pirates of the Caribbean DLC. But I was still so burned that I really didn't want to play it, but there was not really anything else coming out at the time. That was like one of the biggest reveals for E3 of 2021, that I begrudgingly downloaded the game and played this DLC with Pirates of the Caribbean where there's a Johnny Depp character, a Jack Sparrow character, and it was okay. It was definitely new content for the first time that I saw. I had a good hour or so play of that, and then I went, I'm done. It's not a good game. It's not a good game at all. It has the good basics of a game, but there has to be more than what they have in there. And you're probably going, well, they've added so much more content now, Ryan. I'm sure they have. But man, for the first several years, it was the exact same crap content that, and even now, I still believe every upgrade that you buy with your gold that you get from doing quests is all cosmetic. There is still no reason to play it other than the first. You could play that game for, again, the first mission and see 99% of the content available in that game. It's the same issue I have with Destiny, which is a garbage game. Bungie sucks. Whoever, I don't want to get into a rant on this, but man, Bungie just really just ruined their reputation with that game. And I know thousands of people that play it still, but boy, that game is just the same exact game. Remember when when Destiny 1 came out and people were like, oh, I played through the game in 45 minutes. Yay. Not 45 minutes. I know it's way more than that. But like after the first day, they said, I played the entire game. I played all the content. Now go do it again with bigger light levels or whatever garbage and just get more numbers going up. And I hate that design. I think that is one of the worst plights on video games is the numbers go up type of design. Screw that noise. I hate that crap. So, it's a little bit therapeutic, I guess. But I really do think that Sea of Thieves was just the biggest game that I ever got burned about. And I'm still bitter to this day about it because, again, I wasted $60 on a game that was free the next day. And then I wouldn't even be mad if the game was worth it. But it's not. It is like a mobile game. It's like spending $60 on a free-to-play mobile game and then spending an hour with it and going, cool, I saw all that there is to do, delete, and trying to never think about that $60 ever again. Like, you just would not be able to live with yourself. I don't know how I do it. So that was Couch Talk. Okay. Let's kind of finish this sucker up. I know I've been going for a while here, but the game of the month is Dead Cells. And Dead Cells, I wasn't a big fan of when it first came out, but Dead Cells is a really good game. And the reason why I even thought about it and suggested it for March's Game of the Month is because there's Castlevania DLC for it. Man, I love Castlevania. I was not a fan until about 2019. 2019, when I started my Game or Die podcast, was one of the first series that I got into, and I talked about it for a couple weeks straight, and I went through all the games on that podcast. So I was like, hey, I'm going to start playing Castlevania for whatever reason. And then on the next podcast, I would talk about Castlevania 1 on NES. And then I would talk about, the Castlevania 1, 2, and then 3, Simon's Quest, and then Curse of Dracula, I think is Castlevania 3 on the original Nintendo. And then the next podcast, I went to Super Castlevania or Castlevania 4, and then Rondo of Blood and Bloodlines, and diving into Symphony of the Night and really finally understanding why people love that game so much. And I just had a blast with that series. So during the Nintendo Direct in the end of January of this year in 2023, they announced for Dead Cells, which is a game that came out in 2018, that they are doing Castlevania DLC, like cross promotion Castlevania DLC for Dead Cells. And I went, okay, I'll try Dead Cells again because I played it and Dead Cells is a run-based game and I don't like those types of games. I just don't find them very interesting. So, like, I downloaded it, I played it, and I did one run and I got pretty far. I got like 25 minutes into it and then I died and then I just had to do the whole thing over again. I just went, that sucks. I don't like that. Then I deleted it and never thought about it again until that Castlevania DLC announcement. And then I went, I kind of want to play it. I kind of want to try it again because I do want to play the Castlevania DLC since Konami is just dropping the ball left and right with their games for the last several years. So I might as well. So I found it on CD Keys for $8 because it was on Steam for 20. And I was like, I'm not paying $20 for Dead Cells. I know I can get it cheaper. It's, came out in 2018. So I looked around, CD Keys had it for $8. I downloaded it and I played through it, or I did it and did one run and I didn't do very good. Then I did another run. I did a lot better. And then I did a third run and I got to apparently near the end of the game. And I went, holy crap. I got to almost the final boss on my third run. And so it's the way my life works out. I basically got to the end of the game and then died right before the final boss and then couldn't get there for, I think, like 6 more hours. But then I did it on stream a couple weeks ago. I streamed myself playing it and I had a blast. I was exhausted, but I got it. I got to the final boss and I beat it. I beat that game on stream and it was over 2 hours in one run. It was a fun time. And basically, it really cemented how, in my mind, why people like Dead Cells. And then on the 6th of March, the DLC for Castlevania got released. And it's really, really good. It's $10, which is a lot, but Steam sales going on right now. You can get it for a little bit cheaper, I believe. And I got it for not just that DLC. There's also a couple other DLCs that I got. And I just bought it all at once and I got $5 off all the DLC combined. So I think it was all together. The Castlevania DLC and all the other DLC combined is $25. I spent $20 and I got everything. And I was like, dude, I'm enjoying this game enough to buy everything. So I've been exploring the regular DLC that's been out for a few years. And then I also started playing through the Castlevania DLC and I'm having a blast. Unfortunately, the one gripe that I do have is that the Castlevania DLC is split into 2 parts. At the very beginning, you meet Alucard, and he shows up and says, hey, go through, and find me at my dad's castle, and we'll fight my dad Dracula together. So you go through Castlevania outskirts, you go through the castle, and then you're about to go to Dracula's castle, and Death comes and grabs you, and you have the boss fight with Death, just like in Symphony of the Night. And then you got to do it over again, but you can't do it the same path. And that's where I didn't really understand. You have to take a different path to go to the clock tower, which is just play the main game, all the way through until like a 3/4 of the way through the game. And then Alucard will show up and then you'll go to Dracula's castle, you'll fight Medusa, and then you'll fight Dracula. And I only was able to find him once because I thought you would just keep going through the Castlevania levels to play the Castlevania DLC, but you only do that the first time. After you fight Death and defeat him, then you have to go through the main game and show up at 3/4 of the way through the game and then continue the Castlevania DLC. And I went, that kind of sucks. So that's my feeling on Castlevania right now. I still have not finished the DLC for Castlevania on Dead Cells, but right now, like I said, it's at least $8. It might be cheaper on the Steam sale now. I'm not sure, but definitely give it a try. if you are even remotely curious, you've never played Dead Cells, or you have and you already own it, buy the DLC. The DLC is $10 and it's definitely worth $10. So that is going to do it for this much longer version of the Couch Money Couch Cash Repeat Gaming Podcast. I've been your host, Ryan Moore. You can follow us on couchmoney.org, and you can just click the little link on the website, couchmoney.org, and there's a Discord link right there at the top, and we'll take you to the Discord for Couch Money. Like I said, thank you very much for listening. You can also check out my stuff at gameordie.net, where I do another podcast like this, Game or Die, the podcast, or you can check out all my reviews on gameordie.net. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you very much for watching and listening, and I'll catch you next time.